Warm greetings from the editorial board. An official newsletter from the school is like an annual report of a company, a collection of the school events, news, students' articles, poems, drawings, and so much more. The making of the newsletter was a long journey, beginning from collecting the articles from the students, to editing them, to proofreading them, to compiling them, and finally presenting them to all of you. And today, I'm glad that we have reached the final step. Like every other year, we are back with this year's first edition of the e-newsletter published by the NGP school. On this special occasion, I, Lohitha Bhanu, Editor-in-Chief, is engaging myself in a conversation with Dr. Anitha Chakravarthy, a writer and a pathologist working in the KMCH institutions. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Before we begin, I would like to introduce and tell you all a little portion of Dr. Anitha Chakravarthy's vast profile. Dr. Anitha Chakravarthy Sriram is a medical professional and practicing pathologist based in Coimbatore. She was born and brought up in Bangalore. She completed her UG degree from Bangalore and MD from Bangalore. Thereafter, she's been avidly practicing pathology and also teaches medical students. On an academic front, she has won Best Paper Presentation at State Level Conference and Best Poster. She has attended numerous conferences and has also published papers in the national and international journals. Her literary genre is mostly non-fiction, focusing on Hindu mythology, particularly Vaishnavism, and attempts to relate it with today's way of life. She has been writing on mythology in magazines and blogs. Many of her literary articles written in English have been translated into Kannada. Her analysis and description of characters in her book Jaya Vijaya Bharatha can make the reader not only engrossed but also kindle an interest towards spirituality and get a better understanding of the morals of the common tales that most of us have been listening to. She tries to keep her language simple while preserving the elementary facts of the narrative. Her works are attempts to rekindle the interest of Indian mythology in the people of today's world. Her book, Jaya Vijaya Bharatha, published by Kiwi Books India, is a compilation of carefully selected characters from the Puranas. She has kept her language simple with lucid narration and thoughtful analysis. It's a sheer pleasure and honor to have you with us, ma'am.
Thank you.
Once again, a warm welcome to you from the entire NGP family.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much. I must first thank you, all your students and the management for giving me this fantastic opportunity to be a part of your conversation and show. I really feel that in these many years of my life, I've loved talking to the younger generation, people younger than me. I'm not very old, but people younger than me.
Yes.
Because the way they address issues are much more simpler than what we even look at. That is because this younger generation are so focused on the various web communications that are available that what I feel I've learned yesterday evening isn't the same today morning.
Yes.
But on the other hand, this younger generation are already updated. So whenever I get an opportunity to talk to the younger generation, I never deny it. I love talking to them because there is much more than what I speak to what I learn is much more. That is one of the reasons why I love accepting such opportunities, because it's a two-way learning process even for me. I get the chance to update myself on everything.
Yes, ma'am. It's definitely a pleasure for us to have you with us today.
Yes.
Shall we proceed with the questions?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Ma'am, my first question is, you're a pathologist and you're a writer as well.
Yes.
So science and literature, they are total opposites.
Yes.
So what is your take on this? I mean, how do you take up both together, ma'am?
All right. You know, Lohitha, what my biggest fear was when I was a school student?
I have no idea. I mean, everybody have different kinds of fear.
My fear was English. I really did not know how to address verbs, adverbs, and nouns. I was never understanding where each one has to be placed. And you know, the worst part of it was I was not comfortable with my tenses. especially how to use past tense and present tense. Because we always say in a paragraph, if you begin a paragraph with a past tense, it's always good to continue with the
Yes.
past tense throughout the paragraph.
Mm.
But while I would write, I would come to a past tense, there would be present tense and future tense. So there always would be a problem for the teacher while she corrected my papers and while correcting my English. My grandfather, on the other hand, was very good in English. So what I decided to do is I had to overcome my fear. The best way to overcome my fear is to understand. I believe that the best way to overcome your fear is to understand. Understanding will come with knowledge.
Yes.
So I used my grandfather as my tool, my teacher, to teach me how I could use these into a sentence. So every day, to eradicate my fear, I would sit with him for 1 hour English class. He was extremely good in his language, definitely. So he would teach me how to use verb, adverb, and noun into an exercise. Initially, it used to be very difficult. It used to be more of a one-way exercise for him. I failed to pick them up so soon, but I never gave up. I wanted to master this because this fear constantly kept hitting me. I knew in the future English would become a medium for everything. And if I am not going to be strong in this language, then I don't know where I may land. Or I have the fear that I may not be able to go places if I don't improvise myself. So I used to sit with him every day. He used to teach me. I became more and more working towards my improvisation of my language. So back then, I never thought my English would go beyond letter writing. Okay?
Yes.
But now I realize that those were the days, the lessons that I've learned with my grandfather have been the best foundation for my language. Today I realize that when I'm able to talk to anybody confidently, when I'm able to write articles or essays or even books for that matter, I am more confident. That was because of those days I decided to overcome my fear. That is what I tell your younger generation. All of us have a fear. You may be afraid of maths, you may be afraid of science, you may be afraid of socials, commerce. There's so many things you're afraid of. But how will you eradicate that fear? You understand. You read, you grab it well, you improvise on that. That fear will go automatically because you become a master in that. So that is how my language that is how I developed a good foundation on my language. Then reading, on the other hand, came very late to me in my life. I started reading a little later. I was not an avid reader during my school days. It started only a little later. And when I started reading, I began to realize that was another simple tool to improve my language. So I started reading everything. I did not have a restriction for the genre. I would read everything. Okay, but I had a special love for mythology. That's a different thing, but I would read all genre. I did not have any particular thing. If the book is good, I will read it. Anybody, any writer, I did not have hotshot favorites. I will read only their book. I would read everything. All of this was only with one thing on head: overcome my fear. So this was the only way I could. So reading has helped me learn to overcome my fear. This has helped me to build the language, basically. So I never thought I would go this far into writing. When I joined my undergraduation, I was actually forced to write articles in medicine. All right, I had to publish. It could be for academic growth. It was for everything, basically. So that's how my journey of writing began. I began with writing many academic articles, and then I started participating in contests, which were academically related initially. Then I started realizing that I had more than just academic touch. My articles had a creative niche. That was when it struck me hard. Why can't I write something with literature as a base? My grandfather was still alive then, so I knew, okay, my tool is still there, so I can still take a lot of help. So that is how, from writing medical related articles, I started writing a little creative articles. And those articles were very short, say about 500 words or 600 words. I would not have a topic to write. I would just randomly write, say a thought. something I like over the day, I would write it. That is how the journey of writing began. Then it started extending to writing articles. Those articles were more of stories. So slowly, this is how I have developed the interest of writing. At some point, I got the confidence that I could take this writing to the next level. So that's when I started writing for blogs. And after that, I earned certain amount of readers. And I was very happy when I started earning many younger readers. So that was a big positive impact for me. I was targeting the younger generation while I was writing mythology related articles, and I started getting that. So this is how I kick-started with writing. So that there is no big difference. I always believe that there's no big difference between your profession and passion. You have to do it. Many of them feel that, no, I have a primary profession and because it's my profession, I cannot continue my passion. No, never. All of us have the same 24 hours. Okay? Einstein wasn't given 48 hours a day. Or Tata Birla didn't have 72 hours in a day. Even he had 24 hours. So all of us have 24 hours. So my creative writing became better because of science and medicine. So I never differentiate the three. They're helping me indeed to go more forward.
Yes, ma'am. Determination is the key.
Yes, definitely.
Moving on, ma'am. So your book, Jaya Vijaya Bharatha, when we translate the title, so when we translate it to the literal sense actually, it says, Hail Victorious India.
Yes.
So when I just say Hail Victorious India, it gives a very patriotic feel.
Yes.
But then I see that your book is into mythology. So what is your say on it, ma'am? I mean, the title and any particular reason for the title?
Definitely. I have a very big story. Let me tell you how Jaya Vijaya Bharatha even began. So I told you initially I took some courage, started writing articles.
Yes.
Then when the real thing for book writing didn't come to me at all. I was never going to write books. First it started with whether I would write letters. Then I came to a level of writing medical articles. Then I came to the level of writing creative articles. Okay, this was it. And I was continuing to do that. There was a time when some of the vernacular magazines, they approached me to translate my writings into their regional languages.
Yes.
Since I don't have a very great niche on certain, which I'm very ashamed of, you should not be like me. I can write only only in English, but you should not be like me. You should be able to write in all languages. But that is the biggest weakness I have. Okay, so I was open to the idea because my thought was I wanted mythology to reach a larger base. Because mythology is the integral part of any religion, and it is our Ramayana and Mahabharata that is the literary pillar of our country. They represent our country. The two greatest epics that our country has ever produced are those. So I always believe that it should reach a larger number of people. And through my language of English, I was reaching very small number of people. But when somebody came to me to ask for translational rights, I was very open to the idea because I knew I wanted it to reach to a larger set of people. So that's when one of my very favorite articles that got converted into Kannada, which I never expect would hit such big audience, is Jatayu Moksha.
Okay.
I wrote that in English as The Liberation. And when they translated, it was about the character Jatayu from Ramayana. And they called it as Jatayu Moksha in Kannada. And I got a very large audience and large response. So that gave me a lot of confidence, a lot of positive impact. And then one day, when I'm very close to my father, and we were just chatting over a phone call, he told me, "You've written quite a few number of articles. Why don't you compile it all into a book?
Yeah.
I will only publish it for you." Then I laughed at that idea because one is I never thought I was going to write a book. That was not on my mind at all. So I laughed. But he did not react to that. So that's when I realized my father is very serious about the idea and he was not joking about it. So I said, okay, I will think about it. So when I got back home from work that day, this kept hitting me hard. But when I went back to look into my articles, they were all at random. I had written articles on various aspects. There was no particular genre that any of the articles followed. So if I compile them, I can't give it a genre.
Yes.
It was a variety. There was randomness. And I always believe randomness is like a shabby thing. So I did not want to put all these random articles together and make people read. No, that is not right. So I decided, okay, let me give it a thought. Let me write a book. But what can I write a book about? So I began to think, give it more thought. What can I write a book on? I had by now had little bit of self-confidence. I had developed confidence that yes, I'm able to write. But what can I write on? My biggest strength is mythology. Okay? You can ask me why. I'll tell you. That is because we are born in this beautiful Indian household. As soon as you're born and you have developed articulation or you develop the capacity to understand, the first thing that your mother will feed you is Rama is the hero of Ramayana.
Yes.
Yes, Rama defeated Ravana.
Definitely.
Ravana is the king of Lanka. Who doesn't know it? Even a 3-year-old, 4-year-old knows who Rama is, who Krishna is. That is the beauty of our household. Probably that's where I got this mythology bug also. I was very interested in that. That was the subject that I wanted to write on. But I knew everybody knows this. See, Rama is a hero. Everybody knows this. What can I write something different that can appeal to people? Or even for me, say for that matter. I want to write, I will like somebody if they write something I don't know. Or analyze something that I don't know. That makes me think even more. So that's when I thought, okay, why can't I address some important characters, not only from Ramayana and Mahabharata? I must also pick some essence from Bhagavatam, pick some essence from Harivamsam. Why not write some character from Shiva Puranam also? Even though I'm not very familiar, but why can't I? For that, I have to read. So that's how the thought came. So initially, I decided on 5 characters, started doing a lot of research. Not only did I do research on Google, no. I had to go to libraries and read a lot of books, a lot of old books, which I could not have access to from home. I had to speak to a lot of scholars, meet them, borrow books. So that's how the journey of Jaya Vijaya Bharatha began. And when I finished Jaya Vijaya Bharatha, it almost took me around a year or so, a little more than a year, to complete around 10 to 11 characters. And then I was left with no title. And I did not know what to give. I thought initially, frankly, this is what I thought. Let me call it Krishna Arpanam. Okay, everything is finally Krishna Samarpanam. That's what I thought. But that won't suit it at all. You know why? Because the characters that I had written are not only Krishna related. There are characters from Ramayana, there are characters from Shiva Purana. So it will not suit. So I was thinking, I almost thought for a month for a title alone. Then it suddenly struck me. When Veda Vyasa completed his narration of Mahabharata, he called it as Jaya.
Yes.
Mahabharata was not called Mahabharata, it was called Jaya. Okay? He completed the Mahabharata with say 24 to 25,000 verses, and that's when he called it Jaya. Jaya signified a spiritual victory. Vyasa said that Jaya belongs to, or the victory belongs to Dharma. Okay? So that was his notion when he finished the compilation of Mahabharata and called it Jaya. And then when it came to the courts later on, it became Vijaya, signifying a material victory. It became Bharata later, signifying the story of the clan of Bharata. Then it became Mahabharata with more than 100,000 verses, signifying the wisdom of this land. Okay, so this hit me. Thinking of getting the idea of writing a book is a Jaya for me. Completing it is a Vijaya for me. And writing the story of this clan, depicting the wisdom of this land is Bharata. So I called it Jaya Vijaya Bharatha.
It's wonderful, ma'am. I mean, you picked up everything.
Yes.
Then
so
making
the books, the titles courtesy actually goes to Veda Vyasa and not really me. And his son.
So my next question, ma'am, is, so you're writing your book, Jaya Vijaya Bharatha. You must have had an emotional connect with the book. It would have been a very long journey. The process itself should have been a long journey. So during the course of the time, have you ever faced the writer's block? So as students, when we write essays or articles, we just stop, we try to look for the right sentence or the right word, or we might not know how to proceed next. We have the bigger picture in mind, that's for sure. But we just, wait, or we don't know how to proceed. So how did you overcome that, Mami? Could you just suggest some tips or something like that?
See, I have a profession and writing is my passion. So two things to address. I would, when you look into a normal writer, a writer who's completely into only writing, an author who completely writes, to me, there's a lot of difference. So what I'm telling you right now is from my experience. Know one thing. I have never been to a literary school or a university. I don't carry a degree in literature or anything like that. So as I told you, my language base itself started to have a good foundation from my school days because of my continuous practice. So you need to keep practicing. That's what I followed. So after that, what happened was when I started writing Jaya Vijaya Bharatha, definitely like anybody else, I had a writer's block. Okay. So how I overcame was, initially I just started writing without any kind of an analysis or a planning. I didn't have anything. My father suggested, gave me an idea, why don't you write about a character? Anyway, I started writing about my first chapter. I had already started because there was one magazine that asked me for an article. So I thought, okay, let me not give it to the magazine. Let me start off that chapter as the first chapter of my book, and I started writing. So basically, I started the book without any plan. After the first chapter, I got stuck. I could not continue. So that was the biggest block I had. Okay, I stopped for a while. Then I decided, okay, my profession also may be hampering a little bit of my writing because I did not have a plan. So I decided that time that whatever I do from now on, I should have a proper plan. Planning is very important because planning will lead to being disciplined. So I made a plan. Okay, first chapter is on Rama, something about Rama, about Valmiki. Okay, so who are my other characters? So chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I started writing down who are the characters I like or who are the characters I want to analyze about. That was my first plan. Then, okay, so I'm going to write about this particular character. Do I know enough? No. So I have to read. So I can't start writing. So I started researching. So I started writing notes on all of them. Okay, so first 5 characters I had notes ready. So I knew what I'm going to write. The only challenge was how I'm going to narrate it. That will come as you start writing. That flow of thoughts will slowly start coming to you as you start writing. So the only challenge I had was how am I going to keep a narration. So as I said, I planned the book. Planning is very important. At some point, I had this author's block. I tell you what I did. I would go back to reading for a short while. Say I would read 1 or 2 books, okay, and then come back to the flow. And then again, I would feel rejuvenated. The second thing what I started doing is I started writing my second book. I stopped this, started writing my second book because I did not want to stop writing. So if you want to be a writer for a long period of time, you must have a plan and you must have a discipline. Make sure that you write at least 100 to 200 words every day. That is very less actually. If you have other profession, probably you can. Otherwise, usually what I know authors do is they have a fixed hours of writing. But since I didn't have a desk-bound job, I was not able to do so. So I would write for a few hours in a day. I would write a few words in a day. But you write. Never give up. Just because you have a block, never give up. You write something else or you read something else and get back. But never stop. I know a lot of good friends of mine who write better than me stop because they had an author's block. But I also know a couple of my friends who had an author's block, came back to writing after a year. So they've never given up. So author's block will come to everybody. But you need to know what will help you to just overcome it. It's a very small problem. It's not at all a big problem. It's a very small problem. But you must come back. Because that block comes, everybody stops.
Yes.
So never do that. Don't stop. So that's how I finished my second book, because of the author's block. So anything and everything, it's an obstacle. Block is an obstacle for a writer, definitely. but take it in a positive way.
Yes.
So when I started developing obstacle for my second book, I started writing the third book. So this is how I have addressed my author's block. A writer and a reader will never go out of ideas. Trust me. Okay. And this writing itself is like a practice.
Yes.
Okay. So write. It's
The more
continuous.
we improvise.
Yes. You kind of keep improving.
Mm-hmm.
And when you keep reading other people's book, you learn even more. So I don't have anybody to say, okay, he's my favorite author, she's my favorite author. I like some style in everybody's writing. There's something really nice. Okay, why do these writers have so many people reading their books? Is it because they have some luck or something? No. They've really written something that has touched people's life. And when somebody else reads your book and says, oh, this is such a nice book, or get inspired by your writing, that is a reward that you really will get. That will give you so much of positivity, and
yes,
that is a reward by itself. So when you have an author's block, don't stop writing. That is my big advice. Even if it's going to take a year or so, come back to writing. Don't keep it away.
Just give it some time and then
get
back.
You have to get back. In that some time, for me, reading helped, writing a new book helped, and that became a positive thing as well. So find something good, even in an obstacle. You never know, that may be better than this one.
Looking for the positive things, even in the...
Keep looking for a solution everywhere. There's because nothing is a problem, nothing is an obstacle. Yes. It's all about you. So that's why I'm saying, from the beginning, mental balance and physical balance. Work on these two. Focus will come. Things will come. Everything will fall into place.
Definitely, ma'am. I must agree on this. Okay. Ma'am, so my next question is, so when we write an article, what should be given more priority? I mean, should we concentrate or put focus or put more effort on catering to the needs of the audience or the readers? Or should we just focus on maintaining the originality and the real essence of the article? What should be our... to which aspect should we give more importance?
See, when I started writing, I only gave importance to my thoughts. Okay? I was not worried about my creative talent, or I was not very worried about, okay, how am I writing? First paragraph has a past tense, I started with the past tense, next it's going to present tense. I would never write like that. I would write what I feel, what's coming into my mind. I would just start writing like that. So I would just say, one day I would be so impressed with some grace that I received from Krishna. So I would be so emotional that day that I'll start telling something about it. So those thoughts just come to me. They're from my heart. There is no literature there. There is no planning over there. Yes. So if you want to become a very good writer, you want to reach many people, you write from your heart. You write what you feel. For that, I also tell you, you should always have a control over your language, over your vocabulary and words. You should make sure that you do not use words which have a foul language or they're filthy to hear. Your book or your writing material should be out of all that. Only then will it be a good read. Only then everybody can read it. And the other big secret is, you don't have... See, we are all Indians. Okay? We all love our regional languages
very much.
Very much.
Yes.
English is whatever an outsider's language. Okay? We have learned this, and now it's become very important that you know this language so that you can survive anywhere in the world.
Yes.
That's all. But we are all still lovers of regional language. When I go back home, I still talk in Tamil. Right? And I'm more comfortable than talking in English. So always remember, if you want everybody to read your book, you should not have, say, only these many people should read my book, I don't want these people to read. You should make sure your language is simple. Simple to such a large extent that nobody should feel I should have a dictionary in my hand. I believe that you can get people to read anything and everything, even while they're walking, while they're not sitting, they're standing, or anything, only if your language is very simple. If your language, I'm not saying people who write very hard English, you should not read their books. I'm not propagating something like that. But it's according to me that only if your language and your words are very simple, you will have a much better reach. So I would not tell you, okay, when you start writing, give importance to these things. No, no, there's nothing like that. You have to write from your heart. And the most important thing is keep your language very simple. There are sometimes you won't believe me when I write, when I've been writing some of the sentences in English, in my mind, I'll actually be framing it in Tamil and then I'll be writing it in English, or I'll be framing it in Kannada, then I will be writing it in English. I think that is common to every Indian.
Yes, the
who
thoughts are,
Yes.
you're more expressive in your
regional language than English itself. But I said it's a big weakness for me, but I'm trying to improvise on that. I've not given up. I started improvising, writing in Kannada, writing in Tamil as well. I think very shortly, with the willpower that I have, with the confidence that I have, I will start writing. And I will start. I think one day you'll even read my books. I really
Definitely, ma'am. So there's a very general notion that, your article is good, or you're a good writer only if you use big words and a lot of big vocabulary. And sometimes when we read such things, we don't tend to understand any part of it. But then most of the time, it's the general notion of the people actually in general, that they think that, oh, he's using such big language, he's using such big words, and he's writing like that. But yes, I must agree that we need to keep our language. So my next question is, how do you think students at our age can get oriented towards writing? So like from our childhood, like, you're from 4th standard, 5th standard, we're all told that, pen is mightier than the sword. You get to express yourself better when you write things, and that's one good medium of communication. But not everybody is aware of the process of publishing a book, or not many have given a thought of writing a book. So any suggestions, any advice?
Definitely. I will suggest one thing to you. If you want to be a writer for a long period of time, have a diary in your hand. Okay? A small diary. There are a lot of things in this, and if you want to be that's what. One is a diary, and the second is your power of observation. Okay? Because when you start writing, your power of observation will increase. Definitely will increase. Okay? Whatever you see, you'll only be thinking, what can I write next, or what can I use it for? Okay, so for that, it's always good if you have a small diary, pocket diary. I would do that initially. Have a small pocket diary. I would just write down. I would get very fascinated if somebody ties a small shoelace in a different way. I would get fascinated. I would write it down. I would use it for the next article. Okay. So anything you observe, there's a small dewdrop on a flower petal or something catches your eye, you just write it down. It will come to your help at some point of time. You can always use it in any other form of writing. It's not that you have some essay on mind or a particular subject that you want to write to, but they'll all come to some help. Okay, so that is what initially I started off my journey with. But nowadays I am actually not following that. What I do is, because I had there was a problem. I lost the diary. So all my data went. So you should be very careful. Not like this losing it. I did that. So after that, I stopped keeping one. I started trying to keep it in my mind, but that would not last for very long, frankly enough.
Yes.
So what you do best is keep a habit of writing every day. Have a writing habit every day. As I told you, it's not necessary you're writing your book only every day. You write these 100 to 250 words of what you see. That itself is a writing. That will become a practice, and that will start showing in your work. This is the best way you can. And when I finished my book, I'll tell you another thing. When I finished my book, I was actually looking for a traditional publishing house to publish my book. I did not want to self-publish it, or do a vanity publishing where I only have to pay money for it and get it published. No. I knew that to a certain extent my work is good. Okay, so I started submitting synopsis, a shortened version of my book, say probably one chapter or half a chapter with about me and other things, why I wrote these books, to various publishers. I will tell you, so many rejected my book. And some said, gave me some points is to start editing even more. So from my first draft to my last draft, there were almost so many changes. So, but I never stopped. Okay, you should never stop. That's what I learned. I kept continuously submitting, and you have to keep waiting. You have to keep waiting because they don't reply tomorrow. Some industries take, say, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks. Some don't even get back to you. Some say they lost your synopsis because we get so many every day. So yours is not just one. That's the answer I would get. Okay, so I had to every time proofread Jaya Vijaya Bharatha before sending it to another publisher. I had to wait. So it took me almost 1.5 years before one publisher got back to me. I sent him probably another a year and a half ago, and he got back to me and he said, "Why don't you send the whole manuscript? We're thinking of reading it." That itself, to come to that level, it has taken more than 1.5, probably 2.5 years.
Yes.
So I had to wait. Then I sent him the whole manuscript, but let's see if it comes through. Again, after say 3 months, he came back to me saying that we're ready to publish it. We'll go for a traditional publishing. So that was the brightest moment for me. I was very happy, very thrilled. Finally, somebody is coming, taking the whole book for a traditional publishing. So I was very happy. I hold the copyrights of the book, but the rest of it all was taken care of by my publisher. We had a separate editorial team. They had a separate layout team, a printing team. So I was in touch with the resource team. I was in touch with everybody. So it took almost 5 months before it came out into the market. So we had to, again, there was a lot of editorial work. They had to do the cover page, the jacket of the book, everything. So it has taken almost, yes, it's a very long process. It has taken almost 2.5, 3 years for JVB to come out into the market. So that way I'm saying, right, you choose what sort of publishing house you want to go for. I'll tell you one story, what kept me motivated. Even though I had to wait for this long, I still wrote the second book and I still wrote the third book because I heard a story. This story is the story of grapes and the king. I don't know if you know it. So there was a kingdom. The king was very proud of his kingdom because it was very fertile. Farmers were very happy, other subjects were happy, everybody in his kingdom were very happy. So one day he tours his kingdom. So when he sees so many farmlands and he's taken aback because there's so many vineyards, okay, all full of lushful grapes. And everybody comes to the king with a basket full of grapes and gives him, okay, see, so many
grapes.
And yes. As he keeps passing, he comes to one place where there's not a single grape, but there's so many creepers, not a grape. So he calls the farmer, hey, all this land is a fertile belt. There's not a single grape here. Why is it like this? And then the farmer says, no. 25 years ago, there was somebody who gave my father a very good quality grape seed. And he said it will take about 30 years for the yield to come. So it's 25 years now. I'm waiting for another 5 years to get the best yield of the grapes. The king was very shocked. Who will wait like this? 25 years passed. So he said, okay, if I am alive and you are alive for the next 5 years, and if you get an yield, you come and give the grapes to me. So 5 years pass. He goes and meets the king with a basket full of grapes, each grape the size of a pumpkin, and so sweet to taste. So the king is very happy, gives him pieces of land, gives him gold, diamonds and everything. He gives him everything. So he goes back very happy. Then the next day there's a big queue. All the vineyard farmers with baskets of grapes to collect their lands, everything. The king tells the minister, I'm not meeting anybody. Give them the market price and send them all off. Okay. Everybody starts protesting. You gave him land. You're giving him gold, house to stay. What about us? You're giving us market price. So the king will tell him, I did not give him for the grapes or the quality of grapes. I gave him for the perseverance, for the patience that he had and the confidence that he had on himself. He has waited for 30 years. I've given it for that, not for the grapes. And he sends them. This is what kept me moving, kept me motivated. The timing may be very, very big, but definitely I will be fruitful at the end. But this is what is publishing.
Yes, ma'am. All of us, especially the younger generation, need to inculcate this quality of patience.
Yes.
Because these days, everybody is very reckless and they just start losing their patience. And
yes.
All of that.
You should have.
Yes.
But perseverance will take you forward.
Yes, ma'am. So my final question, ma'am. Jaya Vijaya Bharatha is a big hit, no doubt. Any other book in the upcoming days that we are going to
have fiction, not mythology based. This is a supernatural fiction.
Okay.
It's called Branches Facing the Earth. So there's another publishing house called Rumor Books India. They've bought the rights of the book.
Okay.
So it's in the second phase of editorial. I think in a month it may come out. It's I wish it also becomes a
big
read for
news
the
for
audience.
Yes.
That is my next book in the pipeline.
So we are just waiting for it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So now we come to the most awaited part. I kindly request you to declare the release of the Quill.
I'm really excited to be a part of this occasion. I'm releasing a school e-magazine called The Quill. The NGPians must be very proud of this moment.
So, ma'am, now that you've seen our e-magazine, what are your thoughts about it, ma'am? I mean, we're all just novices. We just tried our best to compile everything and present it to all the school students and the parents. So you could just give some suggestions and advice, maybe how we can improvise in the next edition. We'll just take that.
Your magazine took me back to my school days. Okay, where with great difficulty and with my grandfather being my tool, I would write short articles, trying to be somewhere within the whole school thing. So it took me back to my school days. I read a few articles, definitely. I really liked them. Some are very, very touching, especially the ones people have written about my dad is the hero.
Yes.
They were all very touching. I did a lot of things like hackathon.
Yes, our school events and
these events. So what I'm really surprised. When this pandemic began, there was a big question mark. Online sessions, what are they going to do? I was taken aback. Literally, you have done everything. What have you not done? There's storytelling, there's story reading, there's World Environment Day. There's so many days, and on Independence Day, everything is celebrated. You have called one speaker for everything, and you've had an interactive session. So there's nothing that your school has not done. So I feel so thrilled. Maybe even during my times of school, I did not have this much exposure, these many opportunities that you kids are having these days. Okay, it's very wonderful. And I actually envy you for that. Why didn't I do my schooling now? I've done my schooling long ago. You must thank all your teachers for that. She's behind you for everything. When I went back around, after my education, around 10 years ago, I went back to my school to meet my teacher, to just see my school and come. I did not expect that I would enter my school. So when I entered my school, I was actually having palpitations. I was so scared to go back. When I went to some of the classes, say 3rd standard and 4th standard, I saw my teachers. I could recognize them. Just the happiest moment. I could relive. I went and sat on the 3rd and 4th standard benches. I said, this is my place. I was sitting here around 50, 20 years ago. I was so happy. You will realize the value of your school when you come out of it. You should love your school. What I advise is love your school when you're there in your school. You will never get this kind of environment, atmosphere, this kind of honesty, diligence from your teachers. You will not get anywhere. So what I have missed when I was there during my school days, when I've come out of my school and when I went back and saw my teachers, I was so emotional.
When we look back, there's a lot more than just these benches and blackboards.
Yes, because they really do so much for you.
Yes.
You can never forget your teachers. I can vouch for the fact that even after I came out of my school, only then I have realized the value of my school. But you all don't be like me. Love your school.
Yes.
You will not find this foundation. School is everything. This is the best foundation one.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I mean, it was an absolute delight talking to you. So much to learn, so much to experience and understand. I mean, I'm just moving on. My 12th is going to get over in a few months, and after that, I don't know what life has for me. But definitely, patience, so many values to inculcate, and so much more to learn after 12th also. And I wholeheartedly thank you once again for so patiently answering all my questions, because not everybody, they just want to finish it off, but then it was not like that. Thank you so much, ma'am. With this, we come to the end, and I would like to conclude here. Until then, this is Lohitha Bhanu signing off. Thank you so much.